New Star Wars movie came out, but the question is it good? Let's talk about that. Welcome to SCHMIEL Show. A long time ago in this very galaxy, a good Star Wars movie was made. Then, 16 years later, George Lucas, riding the coattails of his newfound fame and glory, was given full creative control, and under his dark totalitarian reign, a vast shadow fell across the franchise. 3 shit movies were produced, and the galaxy cried for 10 long years afterwards. Now, Force Awakens came out, we got something that just kinda aight. Not the prequels, so hey. So that's good. I've always been a big fan of the Star Wars franchise. Not just the films, but just the world, man. I grew up on the games, and so many good Star Wars games have come out. There's so much more to that lore than just what you see in the movies. And when I heard Rogue One was coming out, I was excited. Because I thought we were finally going to see films that explore that vast kind of expanded universe that I always thought was really neat. And I'm not talking about like the established expanded universe necessarily. I'm just talking about Star Wars stories that aren't about the primary characters. I mean, they're called Star Wars, not Star I Hate My Dad. Lots of people are in the Star Wars. Let's see some of them. And that's what this movie gave us, and that's what I was excited about. I love the premise of that, but it didn't quite hit home. This movie has big themes. I could see what it was trying to do. The script seemed ambitious, and I see why it was bought. But it just did not quite deliver on what it was going for. Everybody loves this movie, so let's start with the good, so you don't, stop hating me less. That's not gonna work. Please. Best thing to me, man, A+ droid. I love KS, whatever his name was. A lot of times, like, having a comic relief character really just feels like an obligatory trope. It's never actually funny, but this guy nails it, man. He had, by far, the best lines of the movie, and I loved it. And when he was actually effective and it was time to fight, his movements were fascinatingly efficient. I just loved watching that dude operate, and everything he said. Great droid. Also, really loved the blind monk and the Mandalorian, man. They had a chemistry. You could tell there was a kind of love there. And it's just a fun character, right? I liked the relationship. I liked seeing them interact. And whenever the blind guy was on the screen, I'm like, alright, this is good. Things are going fine. But it's fitting that I bring those up. Because one of my main problems with the movie is its characterization. Characterization is a little bit of a fickle thing in storytelling, right? It's not always about having long backstories. It's not always about knowing things about people. Sometimes it's just a little moment, a little tick in the actor's performance that just lets you know this guy has a personality. This guy is a person, right? He has attitudes, right? And it doesn't have to be knowing all these different things about him. Because I love the monk and I love the Mandalorian, but by far they had like some of the least amount of backstory in the entire movie. The main 2 protagonists of the plot were very just kind of I don't know. Didn't really care that much about them. They got the job done, I guess. They just didn't seem like very full-fledged characters, right? You got the 2 main protagonists, right? By far get like the most screen time. A lot of the movie deals with the woman's backstory, but that being said, even though it spends all this time trying to say what happened to these people, I felt they were like the least defined characters. They just didn't seem like they had much personality. They just didn't seem very well crafted. They didn't seem interesting. Honestly, I don't even remember either of their names. But to be fair, I don't remember the names of anyone in this movie, so... But still, I just know them as the guy and the girl. I guess the responses and the performances just kind of felt a little ham-fisted, right? Like her reactions to these tragedies seemed more like stock reactions rather than they were just kind of plugged in like Legos. Like, oh yeah, I mean, that's what the guy has to do, I guess. Rather than something that felt like organic and real. Which, I don't know. It's a hard thing to articulate. And really, there's so much little time devoted in comparison to the blind monk and the Mandalorian, and yet, with that little time they had, I felt them much more as people, right? Than these 2 main characters that the plot tends to focus on for the majority of the movie. I feel like that's a failing on their part. Like, I love having great side characters, but, they're sides. They're not the entree, man, right? They're not the meat and bulk of the movie. Other guys, the villain, really charming, really interesting scene in the beginning. Like, even though it didn't say everything outright that was happening, like, you could tell he had relationships with the people he was talking to in that scene, right? There was a history there. He was also vaguely charming. You got to see more aspects of that character. But even beyond that, like a lot of the motivations just didn't seem very well established. Some of their reactions to different things just seemed kind of like more cookie cutter by the book rather than like an actual like organic reaction. Like there's a major point in the movie where the dude protag has like this kind of internal conflict, and the way he makes his choice doesn't seem like it's led up to, doesn't seem like it's built up to, it doesn't seem like it's adequately explained. He felt like he made that decision because the script said so, not because that's what his character would do. The arc didn't seem earned. And so that motivation seemed kind of weak, and then like right after that, the girl protag knew about it for reasons that didn't really seem clear to me. I don't know why she would know that was happening, or that's why he was doing what he was doing. It felt kind of, it didn't connect right. There's even a moment in that conflict where the guy turns around and he says, "Look, I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old." Or something like that. I was just like, okay, I guess. I mean, no one asked you. It didn't really seem like it was that connected to the conversation right now, but okay, sure. I hate to say it, by the second half of the movie, I was actually kind of starting to get bored. I was checking my watch. But the ending is what this whole movie was building up to. Despite the fact that I didn't really care about that many of these characters in the film, the ending still was effective, right? It was shot in a way and directed in a way that still managed to elicit an emotional reaction from me about people I didn't really even care that much about. It could have been more effective if the build-up was better, but the ending was still proficient. You could see that it was trying to be the nexus. It was trying to be the thing that made the movie. It was the movie. You'll see a lot of reviewers saying the guy really wanted to make a war film, and you can see it really here. Tying back into how he's trying to talk about these big themes with his script, you can see he's really trying to show the price of war in this moment. But still, he never quite delivers. Another big thing that he's trying to achieve in this film is he's trying to show the, I guess, internal struggles of the Rebel Alliance, right? You're dealing with this fringe splinter group that's much more militant, supposed to be much more extreme, and you have characters that are supposed to be trying to grapple with the horrible things they have committed in the course of fighting for their freedom and resisting this massive imperial authoritative force. But it feels like the film only really paid lip service to it. It never really quite sold me on the idea. Scenes were just kind of thrown in there to be like, yeah, this is bad, right? Bad, yeah. And yeah, it was bad, but it didn't hit effectively for the storytelling purposes. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, is not a great Star Wars movie. It's a good enough Star Wars movie. I feel like so far with the new entries in the Star Wars franchise, we're getting Disney's equivalent of like the Iron Man 2s or the Thor movies of Marvel, right? We still haven't had a really great Star Wars film yet, right? We haven't had our Winter Soldier, right? We haven't had our Iron Man 1. So far, we're just getting the first Captain America and stuff like that. But, you know, go see it because of Star Wars, man. I love those sound effects. I love those ships and I love that world. And it's great to see it on the big screen again. I give it a 6 out of 10. I almost gave it a 7, but ultimately, it's a 6. That being said, lots of people seem to disagree with me, and that's great, man. Hey, look, if you love it, the more things you love in life, the better, I say. Feel free to tell me what you think down in the comments. Gotta say, beautiful movie too, by the way. I love how you can see all the different kind of like Star Wars ships. I was so used to seeing those things from the games, and like the Y-wings are actually like bomber craft, and you got to see like the ion torpedoes and the ion blast actually disabling like ships and stuff like that. Oh, it's really cool. Also, CGI, Grand Admiral Moffat or whatever the guy's name is, bold choice, didn't quite pan out. We still haven't quite put ourselves all the way out of the uncanny valley yet. But, you know, good try. Seriously, I spent half the movie being like, is that a person or is that CGI? I don't know, something seems off. Oh, and the Vader scene is sick. I want that movie.